The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up. We are in the another one of our series. So basically, we're doing our monthly, or trying to do even more, kind of a short, focused uh, trainings regarding features of Retrospect. So as opposed to going through a full technical training, we can just target specific ones. Today, my name is Werner. I'm the Director of Sales in North America. Robin is actually going to be the one showing the demo of the capabilities and answering questions. Say hello, hello. So if you got questions as we go along, everybody's in mute mode and stuff, so just type it in, greetings. So just type it in, we'll respond to those as we go. I'm just going to go over a couple high-level slides real quick. Again, the main thing you guys are here is to see the demo and the features, how to get the remote employees backed up and set up. I just want to give a nice overview just in general of the needs and why this is such an important feature and function for Retrospect. So a lot of cool things. I don't know if you guys see on the upper left-hand side right now of the slide. We are now part of StorCentric, which also associated with us now, or in the same company, is Drobo and NEXSAN, and there's some other products too, but basically very cool things moving forward in regards to, especially when it comes to remote backup, remote data protection, in regards to not just the software solution side of things, but also in adding the additional hardware protection with rated arrays, synchronizing between units and all sorts of stuff. So a lot of cool things coming down the road. Yes, it is. So yes, again, if you have any questions, just type right on in. But if you have, again, a lot of cool things. Let me get right into this so I can get it over to Robin. Again, this is going to be a quick 30-minute one, and again, we'll be answering any Q&A as we go along. So again, why remote backup is very, very important, that regardless, and just so you guys know too, we will be posting this and recording this, so that way if you do want to have access to it or share with other people on your team or whatever else, it will be available for you. But very important to back up not just whatever data you need, but also back it up wherever it is sitting. So if in fact you have remote workers, like I am, like a lot of us are, there's employees that come in and out of the office, or even have remote offices and stuff, very important to make sure that that data is protected regardless of where it's sitting. So, and that means in addition to just local data protection, making sure you have some rated arrays so you have, protect you from drive failure. You also have the ability now to move the data, and it's important to move the data off to a cloud target or even a private cloud target if needed, to make sure that there is a disconnect between the local network and where that data is being stored. Again, I'm just going over a high-level overview of this stuff. Again, the main thing is just show you, but again, I think it's important to understand a lot of the use cases for this. Again, as opposed to just, if there's, nowadays, as opposed to just drive failure, you're dealing with situations where there's network attacks, ransomware, malware, all sorts of stuff that can happen. So making sure that you have multiple copies, data's in multiple locations, is very, very important. And again, at the end of the day, this is all about, it's kind of like car insurance, everything else. It's really about making sure that that regardless of who's working and where they happen to be, that these data is being backed up. And so even these remote workers, my sister owned a company. One of her employees was working remotely up in the San Francisco area, and does a lot of contracting work. So was actually out on this site for almost a year, and somebody broke in, stole the laptop. So not only was that data was not backed up, it also had no encryption. They had no whatever, and everything that they'd been working on for the last year at that one site was lost. So I mean, again, lots of reasons why. And again, what could have been a quick, 10-minute backup, an incremental backup, and great. I've had my laptop broken, and one was stolen at one point, and it's all a matter of just getting a new laptop and getting that data restored. So it's all about taking that worry off you. You focus on day-to-day operations and know that you got data and data protection sitting out there. Again, not just on that local one, but also, again, as far as local backups within the office, but also making sure these remote employees that might otherwise get starved out of the backups are still getting protected. Some of the challenges, obviously, there's, having a reliable internet connection. So sometimes at certain locations, there may be some limitations to that, in which case, we even have single workstation versions that allow you to back up to both disk and cloud locations, yet still have this centralized management capability with our new management console. So again, just a challenge, general internet connection. Make sure you have a solid internet connection when you're trying to do this. But again, having a hybrid solution at hand allows you to also do local backups to make sure that if there are network breaks, I was actually trying to do something the other day, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't access. I would think it was Skype was down or something. So who knows what goes on in the background sometimes, but it doesn't matter because I have data both sitting in the cloud and on my local one. So from a business continuity point of view, I was still able to stay up and running. Access to it, make sure that you have are going to have that access when needed. So if in fact the network goes down, that you're still going to have the right passwords, networks, encryption keys. All that's kind of just stuff you want to think through when you're doing these backups. Some comments to see. Let's see. This is all about perfect examples. They were talking about from cloud from a security point of view. So yes, they can be vulnerable to attacks. So that's actually something I was going to get into. So while it provides the security from a disconnect of that main network, again, you're right. I have my best friend's a security specialist, and is constantly saying, "Hey, Werner, your password's been compromised. I see you listed over here." So when that stuff happens, yes, moving the data off to cloud, there is absolutely risk. Which is why when we move the data off to a cloud target, Retrospect encrypts that data before and during transfer. So that data is sitting out on the cloud target. If in fact it's been compromised, it's been accessed, the data is still encrypted, so unaccessible just because you lost the password to your Amazon account or somebody, I don't know how many, different breaches you hear on a daily basis. But knowing that the data, when it's sitting off on a cloud target, has that additional encryption is very, very important. So it's a great point. And so yes, they can. It's not, again, being disconnected from it, being offsite does not necessarily protect it 100% from malware. But again, it's always important to have that redundancy, to have the offsite capability, have the one that's disconnected from the network completely. They normally say that you want to do a 3-2-1 protection. You want 3 copies of the data. You want to have a redundant 2 different types of media, whether disk, tape, or cloud, and you want to have multiple copies of it. So or 1 copy has to be offsite. So yes, very, very important. And again, I don't want to say yes, put it on the cloud and everything's good. It's again, there are definitely upsides and downsides across the board. The important thing is to have a true hybrid solution that you have your data sitting on multiple locations, so that way, if in fact needed, you can access it more from just the one. Hi there, and let's see, how does Retrospect map tech remote resources? So again, Robin's going to be on talking soon and stuff. So they do have the ability, normal stuff, they know that teaching you guys how to utilize Retrospect, they're always available to you guys, is the most important thing, and walking through how to get things set up. If in fact necessary, they do have ways to get through that as well. As far as other ways to, if they need to log in or remote in and stuff, they can do that if in fact necessary. If that's the question. And yes, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, again, it's very important to have a complete plan. And again, this main thing here is that it's just some of the general ones, some of the general issues, but absolutely a complete plan is always the most important to deal with. And again, the restoration plan, making sure that when you're actually doing the restoration, that again, as I've said here, it's remote client protection. That alone, it's not some magic thing of going, I got my backup and I'm good. You need to make sure that things are tested, make sure that they're running correctly. And when you're dealing these remote backups, when you're dealing with limited internet capabilities and the amount of data that can be moved off to a cloud and stuff, it's important to make sure that you're really thinking through what's critical for your backups, what's needed for your restores. So, to make sure that, yeah, okay, maybe we have our full images on this local storage, but we do have our critical data for what the business needs, whether that's files, whether that's a database, whatever it is, protected across the board. Make sure that, again, as I was mentioning, I knew I had another slide here, a secure solution with redundant backups. Again, the 3-2-1 rule now, it's very, very important to make sure that, again, you have redundant copies and that the data, when you're putting it off onto some cloud place, it's encrypted. And yeah, then again, make sure you're protected because as you can see, not everything has backup capabilities. So make sure you're thinking through before you get to the point where you realize you got data that was lost that cannot be recovered. Let's see, a question. I'd like to know how Retrospect fits with drobo and hybrid local cloud systems. It's a perfect fit for us. Drobo units, I don't know if you guys have utilized them. I actually have one here. It's a great fit. It's a very, very simple to use NAS-based array. They're building, StorCentric is actually building this product line that from, again, starting with Retrospect from a backup solution point of view, drobo with their prosumer hardware through the NEXSAN, which is the larger disk arrays. Really, it's going to, as it expands and as we move forward, is really going to have this, wherever the data is sitting, however much data you got going, whatever size company you're dealing with, we're going to have a solution for it. The drobo one, you plug in. It even has direct attach RAID units. There's NAS units available. Again, if you've never used one, simple to use. You plug it in. It has the ability, it's called Beyond RAID, which if you've ever used normal RAID arrays, you know that once you set them up, you can set them up with RAID 5, RAID 10, RAID whatever. And then you kind of re-parcel out those as needed. You go, okay, great, I got 5 drives. I got one that's sitting off as parity for these 2 drives for my RAID 5, and I'm going to use these other couple, 3 disks over here, which I'm going to set up as a RAID 5 as well. And then so basically got 2 drives utilized as parity. Drobos have the ability to kind of reallocate that. It doesn't lock in on that like one parity drive. It kind of spans across them, which allows you to basically, I pulled apart my old iOmega NAS, threw the drives in there, and just allocated that storage to the NAS. If in fact one of those drives blows out, if I want to add more storage, it's just as simple as popping it out or popping in a new drive. Very, very cool, very simple to set up, and it's going to make for very simple Retrospect installations across the board. From the ability to go out, you have 6 different sites, all of them put a nice drobo unit out there, have Retrospect backing up to that local NAS target, and we're even expanding what we do even on our smaller solo version to expand NAS support. Again, or they do have the direct attached RAID arrays as well, which is kind of unique to them. But again, it allows you to have this very simple, inexpensive data protection solution for these remote workers and still allow for this cloud-based target to allow them to also back up to cloud-based storage. In addition to having the remote backup capability, so if you do have the single workstation sitting out there remotely, to allow a centralized Retrospect backup server to go out there and reach those backups and actually back them up as well. So again, it's a very way to have a complete solution across the board. There's going to be benefits for you guys. When sourcing Retrospect, you're going to get some discounts on drobo and vice versa. So there'll be pricing benefits. Again, unified support, which is always important. So when you're going to somebody that needs, when you do need disaster recovery support, when you do need support, to know that you can just reach out to one company to get that on both the software and hardware side of things. And again, then the NEXSANs are larger disk arrays, which eventually will get these drobos to scale up to where they can start moving data over to these larger ones if you have a massive data center somewhere. A lot of cool things coming. This is again just a very specific feature of Retrospect right now, but yes, a lot of cool things coming down the road, and thank you for those questions. Again, some of the features with Retrospect that make life easy. We have this proactive scheduling and a proactive AI. These are the features Robin's going to be showing you in just a second. Basically, the proactive scripts allow you to, as opposed to being within a backup window, let's say 7 at night till 7 in the morning or whatever, it just says, look, I want to back up this client machine on a daily basis, twice a day, once an hour, whatever it happens to be, whatever policy you want. And what it does is it watches for this machine to show up on the network. It used to need to be on a VPN. Now we can actually monitor it just by utilizing a couple of port configurations, that it could be a remote client, go out there, reach out, and actually grab and back up that client data as soon as they hook onto a network. Very cool new capability, and again, allows you, if you have multiple clients, to sit there and say, great, we can back them up whenever they're all going in. We don't need to say, okay, well, he's in at this time and he's in this time. It doesn't matter where you're sitting, doesn't matter when you're in. You can, the proactive scheduling will watch for it. Our new AI capabilities will actually optimize that, not only watching for them, but analyzing the backups and saying, great, way better that we back up Robin's computer first, and then we'll go to Werner's because his network's not as fast, or vice versa. It actually analyzes past backups, how often they're getting backed up, everything to make sure everything's the most optimized schedule for you guys. The on-demand capability is going to be showing you the ability that the clients can actually reach out to those the disk media or the media sets and actually restore back their own files. Very cool. And again, very, very minimal configuration. The end user, the client machines, don't need to go out there and need to know anything about, what do I need to do for a backup point of view. Everything's set up from the backup server itself that allows for these backups. And again, a couple little overviews. So we actually had a training on this management console previously, more of the in-depth details, but with this new management console, as I said, as you have these remote clients, if you get, as a partner, it said we actually have this full version that allows you to aggregate all of the customers into one window pane. If you're an end user with multiple sites, you can get the add-on agent for those specific ones, and again, allows you to aggregate all this information into one window, into one pane of glass that allows you to manage all the backups, monitor them. You can analyze what's going on, check out the storage, drill down into the organization, who's been backed up. You can customize this the way you want. Not going to get all into details, but again, if you have additional information you want to know, a management console or anything else like that, let us know, let me know. And again, this can be monitored anywhere. It's very, very cool new capability, and again, allows for the ability to more simply make sure that these remote clients are not just backed up, but also managed and monitored very simply. We have new deployment tools available. So again, with these remote clients, the ability to push the software out to them utilizing some of these third-party workflow integration tools. So, and now as we add on, Retrospect's based on a server client basis, which means we have our main backup server running the application, whether that server happens to be a workstation at a remote site or a main backup server. And it allows you to, as you update that main backup server to maybe version 16, version 17 when we come out next year, it'll allow you to update those clients as well automatically. So again, simplified management across the board. Script deployment, we now have the ability to go and say, great, we have these remote client machines, and or backup servers, maybe again they're running their own applications out there, depending upon what kind of pipelines situation they're dealing with. But you can go out there and actually create these shared scripts and push them off to a centralized cloud target, or again drobo, the disk target locally. And again, there's other things. We have new storage groups, stuff like that to optimize as well. But again, in general, again, it's all about being able to do this remote management, remote monitoring, remote data protection to really allow you to protect these clients, protect this data across the board. So a lot of cool things. I'm going to get this over to Robin, and said he's going to show you the how to get this set up, everything else. If you have any questions as we go along, I will make sure where's the tech dashboard. I'll get that all over to you. So again, if you have any questions, you're going, hey, I want to know about how to get a hold of this dashboard for yourselves or whatever, I will make sure you get hooked up with all that information. So, okay, yes, the dashboard. So I'll get all that information out to you guys of how to get signed up for all that. Okay, I am going to now switch this over to Robin, and let's see if we got this going here. This should go.
Make sure it goes to the right screen and show screen. So we should be all set. Okay, so the goal in this this session, we're going to go a little bit quick, but the goal in the session is basically just to show you how to configure Retrospect for a remote backup. We're not going to do any actual backups, but we're going to show how to configure it and what the minimum requirements are. And also, we're going to make an assumption that you sort of have used Retrospect before and are familiar with the whole client concept. So I'll try and show both Mac and Windows, but I'm going to focus mostly on Windows. The capability is identical on both Mac and Windows. So the first thing you would do is when you open Retrospect, is you need to create what's called a public-private key. So on the backup server,
we have a request to maximize your screen, Robin?
They should use the zoom option. I'm as big as I'm really going to be able to get.
Okay.
There's a zoom feature in the GoToWebinar, and you should utilize that to make the screen bigger. So in any case, what you would do first is under Configure, you would go to Preferences. And under Configure Preferences, there's a section that says Client and then Adding. And what you have to do on both Mac and Windows is you have to create the keys. So when you click the Create Keys button, and I've already done it, it's going to ask you to enter a password. And on the Macintosh side, if I bring up the Macintosh version, this is under the Retrospect menu, and you go to Preferences, and under Preferences, there's a Client section, and you would click Create Keys. And when you click Create Keys, you enter in a password that you want Retrospect to utilize for key creation. Once you've created the keys, like on Windows, they're going to be inside a specific folder. They'll be under the C drive, under program data, and then Retrospect. And then there'll be two key files. There'll be a public key.dat and a private key.dat. Once you've created those keys, you take the pub key.dat file, and you just copy it to the client installer folder. And so I've already downloaded a Retrospect client installer. And whether it's a Mac client or a Windows client, it doesn't matter. You go inside the client installer, and I'm drilling into it, and there's a public key folder, and you put the pubkey.dat file into that folder. On the Macintosh, I've got the client installer on the Mac over here, and I open the client folder, and there's a pubkey.dat file folder in there. And I would put the exact same public key file into that client installer. Once I've got the public key.dat file inside of the client installer, I'm now ready to basically install that client on a machine so that it can be accessed later for remote backup. Once I've installed the Retrospect client, whether it's a Mac client or a Windows client, after I've installed that client, I would open up the Retrospect client software on the machine. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the Retrospect client on my Windows machine. And I'm going to go to the Advanced tab. And under the Advanced tab, I have to enter in what's called the public backup server address. So one question is, well, what is that address? How do I find out what the right address is to get the public, the public address? This is the address that the client is going to basically phone home on. The client needs to be able to find the backup server. And so you're entering the address of the public network, the public address. So I'm going to bring up a web browser over here, and there's a web page we use called this yougetsignal.com. And we list this in our directions. And this web page has two functionalities, really. One is it gives you the address. It gives you the public address of the backup server. But it also allows you to check ports to make sure the ports are open. So in the network of the backup server, I would open up this web page, and it will give me the public address. So some of you may already know that because you're managing your network and that sort of thing. But you get the remote address or the public address of the backup server network. Then you go to your client machine and you enter in the address. And then that will allow this Retrospect client to find that computer.
Sorry, question, Robin. Does the crypto use standards-based cipher suites, i.e. RSA, ECDH, etc.?
Any type of encryption that Retrospect is using is going to be based on our AES 256-bit encryption.
Okay.
And so we use our own, we use AES 256-bit encryption for all of our internal encryption, whether you're doing what we call link encrypt, where we're transferring data over the network, or whether you're creating the public-private key files. I'm pretty sure that uses AES also.
And it's all certified, even utilized by like U.S. Air Force and all those kind of guys.
Right, right. So in any case, once you have installed a client using the public-private key, and you've entered the address over here, then the next thing you're going to need to do is make sure that you've got your ports open. So in your remote location, whether it's a home office or a remote office, like a branch office of your business or whatever it might be, you need to make sure that port 497 is open for within your with port forwarding. So you'd set up port forwarding on port 497 and on port 22024. Once you've set up those ports and you've added the address here, then this client will basically be able to phone home to the backup server. And if you're not sure if the ports are open, then once again, you can open this web page at your remote location and then enter in the port. And if it's not open, you'll do a check and it'll tell you the port's closed. And if the ports are open, then it'll tell you the port is open. And then once that port is open, then we know that the backup server should be able to see it. So what do you do in order to get this thing backed up? So once you've installed a client with the public-private key, you've made sure that the client has the address of the backup server network. So the next question is, well, how do I get Retrospect to back it up? Well, when I open up Retrospect, what Retrospect is going to do is, we'll just go back over here to preferences.
And a couple of questions for you, which you may have already gone over, but basically, how do I add the public backup server IP in the install package?
There's a server.txt file. So what you do is you create a file called server.txt or txt, and you put it in the same folder as the client installer. So what you would do, like on the Windows side, is inside, oops, open the wrong folder. Inside the client installer, in the same folder where the MSI is, which is also at the root of this folder, you create the server.txt file, and the only thing that file needs to have is the IP address. And then you just stick it in that folder of the installer. And so when you push out the installer, it will have the server.txt file and the public key file, and then all that will get embedded automatically at the time of installation. And the same is true on the Macintosh side. Inside the client installer folder, you would just put it in this folder.
And then
the server.txt file.
Okay, another question. Can you enter a host name for the public server, like retrospect-server.retrospect.com sort of thing?
You probably can. I personally have not. It does say that. Looking at the directions, you can put backup.example.com or whatever it is. So you can put the IP address or a domain name if you have a specific address you want to use. And we do list that, just to be clear. When you go to the retrospect.com and you go to our website and you go to the knowledge base, there's an article that walks through every single one of the steps that we're talking about today on how to set up remote backup. So you just have to, basically walk through this article. It's got the URL for the website for getting the address and for testing the ports and all of that. So all this is in the article. So, but in any case, once you have got a client installed, and under preferences, you've also turned on the option to automatically add clients. You'll turn on that option as well. The client will automatically be located. The client basically phones home to that IP address, and once the client phones home to the IP address, it will get added to Retrospect inside a special group called Remote Backup Clients. So as Retrospect detects those clients, they'll automatically add themselves to this group called Retrospect Backup Clients, or Remote Backup Clients. Now, the next thing you would do is create a proactive backup script. So you go to Automate, you go to Manage Scripts, you create a new script, and we select, or actually we go back, Automate, and then Proactive Backup, and we create a new proactive backup script, and we might call this Remote Machines. And then after I've created this script called Remote Machines, my source can be just this Remote Backup Client group. And if I make it the Remote Client group, then when the proactive backup script runs, it will automatically grab any machines that have been added recently to that particular group. And that group gets updated automatically as the client phones home. And so you don't have to edit the script on a daily basis. If you add a new remote client to your configuration, we'll see that machine, it'll automatically get added, and then when that script is within its scheduled time period, it will detect that computer is available on the network and then back it up. And when I say it's available on the network, what I mean by that is the client itself has notified the Retrospect backup server that it's turned on and available, and then Retrospect will see that within about 5 minutes usually, and then attempt to back it up. And so we're pretty good about doing that. And so essentially you just set up your remote client group. You can use an existing backup set, or you can create a new backup set. So if I just create a new one as an example, and we'll just do a very quick disk backup set. I'll just select a USB drive I have attached. I can select a drobo if I have my drobo available. And just create a backup set. I set this up, make sure there's a destination, click OK. And now when proactive backup is running, it will basically wait for that client to phone home. Once the client phones home, it will get detected, and then Retrospect will attempt to back it up. And so it's a relatively simple process. The key is the public-private key and making sure those ports are open. If the ports are not open, we're not going to find that machine.
Question, Robin said the clients are configured as per instructions, but the server doesn't place them in the remote backup clients group. Is there a way to force the action or add them manually?
You have to wait for the client to get added because the client is phoning home. And so what you're doing is that's the whole point of using the public-private key concept. The idea here is that if you were to go to configure clients and go to add, you're not going to find that machine through multicast or subnet broadcast because they're not in your physical network. Okay, and so you're not able to do immediate backups of those machines. You can only back up remote machines using proactive backup scripts. So that's an important point. So, but because you can't find the machine through multicast or subnet broadcast, we're not going to find the machine. If you were to use direct, you could theoretically do that if you've got port forwarding set up at that location. But really that's not the point, not the way it's designed. It's really designed that the machine automatically adds itself. Now, if the machine comes onto your physical network, let's say the user is visiting your office for the day or something, then we will still find that machine. If you've configured Retrospect with multicast and that machine is on the local subnet, then we'll automatically find that machine as part of the regular network. You don't need to make any configuration changes when the machine returns to the home network. Any other backups? We've already gone past our scheduled time. And I know a lot of you are have things to do, and we want to respect that time.
We got another couple of questions here, Robin. How are the backups handled when the clients are actually in the office on the network?
That's what I just said. Yeah, we're automatically going to find.
I know. See, I think you said you just answered that actually. So
yeah, so you might have the clients in multiple scripts. You might have a client in a regular backup script which would capture it during the times that it's physically in the office, and you might have it in a proactive remote backup script for those remote backups. The client can be in multiple scripts. That's up to you, but it's only going to get picked up through a proactive backup script when it's in the remote location.
See, okay, thanks. See, good. All right. Any other questions you got for Robin right now?
Definitely, everyone, if you're going to be setting this up, use this guide, how to set up remote backup through the knowledge base. So just go to the knowledge base, and when you go into the knowledge base, there's an article, and it's like the fourth one down, how to set up remote backup. Like I said, set up your public-private keys, and I know I didn't show that very clearly on the Macintosh side. I'll just pop that up real quick. Just to be clear, on the Macintosh, once you have added your configured the client and added the key, it creates a tag called remote backup clients. And when you're setting up the script on the Macintosh and you're creating this proactive backup script, and you set up your sources, you're going to go here to tags, and you're going to check the remote backup client tag in order to get remote clients automatically that are added. You can always later on, after they do get added, you can just manually select the machine once it gets added to Retrospect if you wanted to. But if you want to grab any machine that's automatically added, that's when you use either the groups or the tags.
And there was one more question here. Our server is in a data center, and the clients would never be on that subnet. Should I set all my clients as remote backups?
I mean, you theoretically could. I mean, if they're in your physical office and that machine has a fixed IP address, I would just add it to Retrospect as a machine through the fixed IP address. I would just go to configure clients, go to add, go to advanced, do direct, and then enter the fixed IP address of that server and just add it to Retrospect that way. And then you can use it through immediate backups. You can use regular backup scripts, and you can use proactive backup scripts. You have that flexibility if you've added the machine by the direct IP address. So, if a machine doesn't show up in multicast or subnet broadcast and it's physically on your network, it means your network is blocking broadcast over port 497. And you may need to check your network hardware or your network settings to make sure you've opened up either the subnet broadcast or multicast on port 497 for TCP and UDP traffic. But like I said, if those aren't an option because of network security, and the machine has a fixed IP address and it's on your network, just add it directly by the fixed IP address. That's going to be the simplest method.
Excellent. Any other questions? And again, if you guys have any additional details you want, I'll send over for the questions that we did get, any additional details, how to sign up for a dashboard, get that all going, everything else. I'll make sure you guys have that. Feel free, said to reach out. I saw that you saw the email. You can do NA-sales at Retrospect. That'll get a hold of the North American team, or just sales at Retrospect to go worldwide, or go directly to your sales contact. We also have our partner portal available for those, or customer portal, and has contact information in there as well. But again, it looks like everything is good here. Again, if you have additional details you want, I did paste the link in. So in regards to how to get everything set up, so you guys should have that there. But a lot of good things moving forward. Look forward to some nice new features. We got some our updates and new capabilities coming out in September, and our new release coming out next year. So watch for a lot of cool new features, new capabilities. Thank you guys all for showing up here.
And just to note,
yes,
we are recording the presentation, and we'll get it. Warner will make it available for people who want the recorded presentation.
that is correct. So, and again, we appreciate you guys taking time. Robin, thanks for the demo. And again, he is available if you have additional questions moving forward as well. So everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you for showing up. And again, yes, we will make sure that we get this presentation out to everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.